Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Tuesday. It is the Tuesday tune-up. We got lots of tunes to talk about. We got lots of things to tune up, like MLS preseason, like a former Barcelona president who is out on bail. We'll get you updated on what's the latest out of Barcelona. We will talk about the U.S. Olympic qualifying team and a little bit of weird things going on yesterday. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Manchester City trying to win game number 21 in a row. They haven't lost in 27. It's absurd, but we will continue to talk about City while they continue to be absurd. We got other games around the world as well. We'll take your questions, all kinds of stuff. A lot of MLS preseason stuff to kind of, I think, get you in the mindset of what's coming. You know, we're, now officially 47 days away from the start of the season, and even less for the teams that are going to be in CONCACAF Champions League. So it's ramping up, and it's ramping up kind of quick, and we'll kind of take a walk around the league and see where things stand. I believe we might even have Jarrett Smith lurking, hanging out in the background. Possibly. If we say the magic word, maybe he shows up. I was going to say something about Neil Lennon.
A la peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah. What is that reference from?
You said magic words.
I know, but is that reference from 1955, 65, 75, or 85?
Whenever you watched Sesame Street.
75? I mean, I didn't watch it in 75, but I'm assuming that would have been probably the sweet spot for Sesame Street.
Yeah. So you say the magic words a la peanut butter sandwiches, and something happens magical. And that was where Jared comes in.
All right.
Should I just go out and come back in and just
Yeah, I got nothing on that one, Jared. I can't help you. Please hang out, though. Please hang out.
That was above my head, John.
Yeah, it was something. Let's get into the. Okay. Who's got me on Echo now? Thank you. Somebody had that going on. Great. This is a wonderful show already. Let's try again. Let's get into the MLS stuff from around the league. MLSsoccer.com starting to ramp up the coverage. We're going to bounce around the teams that they have had a little bit of coverage about as they kick off. Let's start with our friends up just a little bit north, Nashville. Tom Bogert had a piece over at MLSsoccer.com, and this is maybe a surprising stat for a lot of people because, what was the narrative about Nashville SC? Boring, defensive, they can't score goals, they're bad, blah, 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 they're lucky. We don't like them because they play defensively. When they got Yonder Cadiz into the team, and that was late in the season, but when he debuted from that point on, Nashville was 8th in the league in goals per game. That's not too bad. Gary Smith wasn't able to play Cadiz, Mukhtar, and Randall Leal, their 3 designated players. Wasn't able to start them together until the postseason. And they were pretty good in the postseason. They beat Miami. They beat Toronto. They lost to Columbus, gave Columbus everything they could get. They talked about this a little bit in kind of their introduction to the season of they didn't want to be in the position they were in the first half of the season where goals were a little tough to come by. They built a team that was going to be secure and solid first, add the pieces as you go to open things up. And if you go back and think about it, I thought Mike Jacobs pointed this out really effectively. You go back and you look at 2018 and 19 in the USL, which is kind of the same idea that they had to build here. So 18, 19, 2 years. Now you're going to the second year in MLS. 19, they were a pretty attack-minded team. 18, they were solid, and they were smart, and they, not conservative, but also not overly risk-taking. They had a ton of goal scorers in 19. That's kind of where they are now. They want to build smart first and then open it up. And now you've got, in addition to Cadiz for a full year, you've got Rodrigo Pinheiro, the Uruguayan youth international. This feels like a pretty good team going into the season, and I don't know where people are really rating them, John.
No, and I don't know if it's just because they kind of quietly went about their business. I mean, it's just Nashville, because of where Nashville is geographically, they just kind of were there. And you had to kind of hunt for storylines and look for it. But it was just a solid team that went about their business, and then they added the offensive pieces, got better and better and better. And so I guess when you're quietly making noise, as Nashville did, you're not going to be a topic of discussion until they're making noise. Instead of looking at the progression, you sit there and you're looking at the end of the story instead of how they got to the end of the story. And I think that when those pieces were added off of the steady spine that we saw going into the season, that's when folks were sitting there and taking notice from Nashville, when Nashville was making this progression all along.
I don't think people took notice. I don't think people took notice. I think it was the same kind of garbage narrative in the playoffs, when they were already one of the better goal-scoring teams by that point because the game had started to open up. They were creating chances in the playoff games. It's like, oh, they're not very good going forward. They outshot Toronto by like 20-10. What do you want them to do? Yeah. You know, I don't think everybody took notice then. I don't think they're taking notice now. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, Jarrett, I want to hear from you. Like, Nashville feels like a playoff team to me, and feels like if they continue to progress, could be one of the better teams in the East.
Yeah, Nashville didn't really lose anything, and I don't think they'll take a step back. And even if they didn't take a step back, and even if they're same team they were last year, that's still a playoff team in the East, I think. It's going to be enough of a gaggle on the back end of the playoff teams that Nashville, if they are the same defensively that they were last year, I like them to get to the playoffs. The thing with Nashville is they're just not – they never were flashy when they came into the league. They didn't have all of the insane pizzazz and the shiny colors and the draw and the flashing lights and all that. They just kind of came into the league and did their thing, which it was a very – I don't want to call it a blue-collar sort of thing because I don't want any negative connotation that comes from that, but it kind of did feel like that versus what you had in Miami. Honestly, versus what you had in Atlanta when you were, bringing in guys, multi-million-dollar guys from all over South America. You brought in Tata Martino. You didn't have that same kind of flash. You brought in a guy who won MLS Cup, and I feel like maybe we still don't talk enough about the fact that Gary Smith won a cup.
And when people talk about it, they usually try to trash him for something about it because they weren't, I guess, exciting enough to win that cup with a bad team. Or not exciting, a great team, maybe is a fair way to put it.
Yeah, and the teams that are super exciting now haven't really won cups recently. No. Don't tell me Columbus is wide open.
Yeah,
Mark Porter's very good at what he does, but it's not LAFC by any stretch.
No, it's a good style to watch, though. I think maybe.
Oh yeah,
but
it is not. The pedal has been ripped off the floor, and we're going to go wide open.
Right.
Yeah.
Martha with a good point on the Twitch pitch, and if you are watching on the Twitch pitch, hello, welcome, and please chime in on things, and we will try to get to them as they go. We'll also ask you for some questions specifically at different points, but. Martha says the lazy national soccer journalism, like we've talked about before, Nashville didn't have the sexy narrative of Miami or Atlanta or LAFC when they came in. I think they showed you a different way to do it, though. And there's elements of what Atlanta did in what Nashville did. So they invested defensively. They didn't go get a Brad Gazan, but they did go get Joe Willis, who is a regular, solid goalkeeper in this league. And I think he had his best year of his career. They didn't go get a veteran, captain like Michael Parkhurst, but they went out and got a young, I think borderline U.S. men's national team starting center back in Walker Zimmerman to build your back line around. They went out and got a solid partner with him. They didn't go to Argentina to do it like Leandro Gonzalez-Perez. They went to the L.A. Galaxy and got somebody who was underappreciated in Dave Romney, who's a good center back in this league, just completely solid. They didn't go.
Which is amazing that the Galaxy let a serviceable center back leave.
I know, really. Yeah. They didn't go to Mexico to get a borderline U.S. men's national team left back like Greg Garza, they went in the league to get one in Dan Lovitz. They got a right back that didn't necessarily work, and it took them some time, and then they got a rookie who developed into it in Alistair Johnston, kind of like Anton Walks in 2017. They built a good holding midfield. Atlanta had, initially it was going to be Carlos Carmona and Julian Gressel, and then they started moving the pieces around. Tata Martino said, hey, this big redheaded guy's got to play. Jeff Lorenowitz forces his way into the lineup. Carmona helps him out with a red card in week 1. Gressel moves out to the wing. Everything opens up. Nashville had 2 guys that they identified very early on in the process, in Dax McCarty and Anibal Godoy. That back 6, Atlanta invested in it. Nashville invested in it. They did it in different ways, but they invested in it. The biggest difference is Nashville didn't go and get a Tito Villalba. They went and got Randall Leao. Okay, a young Costa Rican versus a young Argentine who ended up playing for Paraguay. But difference in amount of spend there, for sure. But similar kinds of players. Speed to burn, can open a game up, a little unpredictable, capable of spectacular. All right. Hani Mukhtar, not nearly as much of a spend as a Miguel Almiron. So in that front part of the team, and they never found a Joseph Martinez, which, look, Atlanta was probably a little fortunate to make that happen the way it did. Because you got to take your luck and run with it. But Joseph Martinez, when he was signed, was not this like, oh my gosh, Atlanta United's got the greatest forward that the league has seen come into it in years. It was, he's a winger who maybe plays out wide in this team, or maybe they play 2 up top and he's a second forward. I don't really know. It didn't really go well for him in Italy, but it went well in Switzerland. I don't really know what we have coming in. He's fast, but I don't know what we have.
I thought going into that season, I thought we were going to see consistently Kenwyne Jones up top as kind of the anchor point, with Joseph playing out on the left and cutting in.
They didn't hit on that, and that's maybe the biggest difference. And it's good scouting. It's great work by Tata Martino to see Joseph as a 9. And that took Atlanta to another level. It took Nashville longer. But still, like, to me, when you look in the Eastern Conference, they are about as solid as it gets. You know, they don't have a lot of questions. The biggest question is, okay, can they be the 8th highest scoring team now that they have Cadiz from the beginning? You have Pinheiro to add on, and you're looking at a front 4. That back 6 is really good. Front 4 of Mukhtar, Leal, Pinheiro, and Cadiz. And then you have guys like Daniel Rios, who produced late in the season. You added CJ Sapong, a veteran in the league who can play out wide, who can play up top. You've got Dominic Badji, you've got Abu Dunladi, you've got Alex Muil, you've got Hendwala Buana. You've got some other guys for depth. But your front 4, Pinheiro's the biggest question, but this is a veteran from Uruguay. It's not he's a young player, up and coming, but he's not a guy who's played 10 games. You know, he played over 1,500 minutes last year in the first division. He's expected to come in and be a boost. He should be a more attacking player than Alex Muil, who brought them the energy but didn't bring them the ability in the final third. If that front 4 clicks, this is a really good team, and they've got some depth.
Well, and I mean, let's just go with the question that we had with that we took with Inter Miami yesterday. Who is in the East? Who is Nashville better than? Better than FC Cincinnati, better than DC United, better than Chicago, better than Miami, better than Montreal, better than Red Bulls. So that puts you at 8 right there.
You're in the
playoffs at that point.
At 8, you're not.
Well, yeah, 7. So
yeah, I don't know if I'm going to say they're 100% better than the Red Bulls. I think they should be. Red Bulls are a little bit of a mystery at the moment, and we'll see what else they do here in this preseason. They get a couple more guys from Salzburg on loan, then maybe we're having a different conversation. We'll go from the other way. I mean, Columbus right now is the penciled-in pick in the Eastern Conference for me. Philadelphia, Toronto, Atlanta, Orlando. It feels like that group of 5 is just a little bit ahead, and New England might make it a group of 6.
Yeah.
Then it's tough because there's New York City, who has talent, but there's some questions. There's Red Bulls, who have a system, maybe not the most talent, questions. Nashville is solid, but could be better and could jump into that 6 as well. And I feel like it's a little bit of a drop from there. It's like Group A, Group B, Group C. And I would put Nashville at the head of Group B along with New York.
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
Group A, it's a tough one to crack into. But it's not so much a knock on like, oh, Nashville's not great. It's the Eastern Conference is going to be really difficult this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea of parity in this league, Jarrett, MLS was founded on it to create these kinds of conversations. There's not a huge difference from 1 to 12, and I'm pulling DC and Cincinnati out of the 12, just because DC is radically changing the way they play under Hernan Losada, and it might take some more roster overhaul to get where they want to get. And he's young; they're going to have time, and they need time. Cincinnati could be in that next group. You've got a young goal scorer in Brenner. You've got talent. We just haven't seen it all come together yet, and we have questions about Jaap Stam and what that looks like. But the 12? I mean, who's at the bottom of that 12? Is it Montreal, Miami? They can pull upsets on anybody in the rest of the conference. It's going to be a great competitive Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath. That's what we like. We like the idea of, oh, these two teams are playing at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. What's going to happen? Probably really dumb things, because again, only a degenerate bets on Major League Soccer, and especially in the Eastern Conference and even in the Western Conference. You can't forget about it, but the margins are so slim between teams sometimes, even like 1 to 10. It's not as, when you think of 1 to 10 in other leagues, you're thinking about a larger gap than you are in MLS. You know, even if Atlanta, returns back to, even if they unlock that 2018 Cthulhu form again, the margin is still there. You saw them in games that year where you go back and look at them like, oh, it's a late goal here or there. Somebody tracks back and makes a good play here or there that keeps it from being, draws, this, that, or the other. It is those little moments, but they will make a difference, and they can separate you from being, 1 through 10. And we've seen it on Decision Day. We saw it in 2017 Decision Day, where Atlanta went from, I think they were in 2nd or 3rd place at one point in the day. They were 6th place at one point in the day. I feel like that you can look at that Decision Day, and it encapsulates everything so beautifully about how weird these conferences can get and how weird the playoff chase can get. But it's going to be interesting to see how it does shake out, who ends up at the bottom of the conference, because like Miami, for all intents and purposes, I think should be better.
I think so.
Cincinnati kind of feels, I want to believe, and I'm possibly being too bullish on them. I want to believe that Cincinnati is on the Minnesota plan, where year 3 is where you start seeing the turn, where they start to turn the corner a bit. Not as much stability as Minnesota had, with Inchy being there from day one.
Yeah.
But that stability starts to develop in year 3, and you start to see that turn. So then maybe it is DC. I would like to believe that DC is going to be a lot of fun in a year or so once he puts everything together. That might be a team that finishes in the middle of the pack every year, but it might be a team that finishes top 3 in goals scored and goals surrendered.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, as a neutral, that is so much fun to watch when you don't have to live and die by it. So I don't know who shakes out at the bottom, and it might not be a matter of the team at the bottom is a tire fire. It might be the team at the bottom is okay. They just weren't good enough, but you still really don't want anything to do with them.
Or they have an injury, and we saw it last year here in Atlanta. We've seen it with different teams. I mean, LAFC went through it as well. They finished
Toronto in 2018 was
Toronto in 18. Like as competitive as it is, and with the parity that the league has, there is depth, but it's one thing to talk about Nashville's depth in their front 6, where you're going, from Pinheiro to Alex Muyl. Okay, you can handle that, but going from Joseph Martinez to Adam John to Kubo Torres, to John Gallagher, It's a massive drop-off. Those are not the best players in the league. Losing Carlos Vela, maybe even for LAFC, losing Edward Atuesta, losing those guys, like, it's really tough. You can kind of tread water, but it could take one of those top teams from a top 5 to a bottom 5 really easily. I don't think this is a year, looking at what we see in the East, looking at what we see in the West, which it feels like there's maybe more teams that are behind the rest, but still it's competitive with Sporting, with Seattle, with Portland, with Minnesota, with Dallas, with LAFC. Does San Jose get better? Does LA Galaxy get back to where they used to be? Does Colorado continue to surprise us? In the West as well, I don't see a year like Red Bulls Atlanta in 2018 where they're setting records for points, Toronto in 17 or LAFC in 19. I don't see those years coming. I think you're going to see a lower point total because it's going to be so competitive, and you're going to see Supporter Shield separated by just a point or two. You're going to see playoff spots separated by a point or two, and you're going to see some good teams miss out in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the West, you could, take your favorite blanket, throw it over Sporting in Seattle and Portland, and an improved Minnesota side. Does Colorado get better? LAFC. You take that, and that's a group that I don't see a whole lot of separation. And so because of that, in the West, I don't see someone boat racing the other 4 or the other 5 there. So I think you're going to see the teams in the West beat each other up a lot. And so I think that the point total in the West will be lower when it comes to who's going to be on top and what your seedings are going to look like, just because of all of that parity that you have out there.
Well, I think the East is going to be the same way. I mean, I think it's the whole league. Like, it's not about just one conference or the other. I think both are super competitive. And Coco says the point total will be lower in the East. It could be, just because you don't have any easy games, and maybe the one that on paper is the easiest with DC will be tricky because of the style. You'll get that kind of like weird Leeds effect at times where a good team struggles against them, or it turns into a 4-3, or it turns into a 3-3 draw, and it's kind of bonkers, and everybody except for the team that had to suffer through it enjoys it. It's going to be fun, and there's going to be a lot of drunk games, and there's going to be a lot of madness and a lot of little things that separate teams. And that's where...
DC is going to beat somebody 4-0 this year in terrifying fashion, at least once.
And then lose 5-0 the next week.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yep. They're going to lose. They're going next game. They're going to get hammer showered.
I think
it's going to be weird.
Yeah, I think this season coaching will be more important than ever, and because the margins are narrow between teams, I think it's going to be down to who makes the right tactical adjustments, who makes the right adjustments in game, who scouts the opposition strongly enough, who is the best technical staff. I think that's going to separate. It's not just going to be talent that separates teams anymore. You're going to have top coaching. And that's where you could see, in the East, for example, there's fair questions about Chris Armas at this level of expectation, because he's going to be going up against Jim Curtin, who has a supporter shield, and I think is one of the better young coaches in the league. Caleb Porter, who's got trophies and has maybe the best team on paper, at least the most well-rounded one. Oscar Pareja, who's an incredibly respected manager and did great work in Orlando last season. Gabriel Heinze and his pedigree and what he's bringing to the table and all the hype on him. Chris Armas feels a little out of place in that top 5. I think Ronnie Dyla might feel a little out of place in that top half. I think Gary Smith has proven himself.
Come home, Ronnie. It's okay. Come home, Ronnie.
You want Dyla back at Celtic. Gary Smith's proven himself because he's got a ring. He's got a trophy. Gerhard Struber, we'll have to see. Bruce Arena, proven himself, and I think he's gotten a ton out of New England. Is there enough there to get more out of New England? Don't know. Phil Neville's got to prove himself. We don't know who's going to be proving themselves in Montreal. Jaap Stam's got to prove himself. Aaron Losada's got to prove himself. Raphael Wicki, I think, is in year 2 where there's more expectation in Chicago, but not an unrealistic amount. Out west, Peter Vermes has been there and done that. Brian Schmetzer, been there and done that. Giovanni Savarese, been there and done that. Adrian Heath, I still have questions about him at that level of elite management. Had questions about the way he handled the postseason. Had questions about his adjustments. All right. Can he get them up into that group, or is that going to be what separates it? Luchi Gonzalez, can he take that next step as a manager, or is that going to be what keeps them further back? Bob Bradley, no question. He's been there and done that. But can he win the big one? That's a question, and we'll see. Robin Frazier, still a young manager, but there's been good things about his time in Colorado. There's been some meh. Matias Almeida, I don't know if he has enough talent, but we know what he's going to do. We know how he's going to play. Mark Dos Santos, I don't know. Greg Vanney, we know what he can do, but does he have the pieces to actually do it this year? Is it going to take another year? Freddie Juarez, Tab Ramos, young guys, developing. They're not expected to win anything right now. So they still have time to grow. It feels like the elite managers are going to be what separate the teams.
No, and I think you're spot on there. And this is going to be one of those tests for, and when I look at a DC United staff that only has 2 or 3 other assistants, and you're bringing all of this in, and you have staffs that have folks who can be dedicated to doing certain things, and they're larger than 3, and you've got 4 and 5 and 6 guys who are doing certain things. They're not all there on the touchline on game day, but it's all the behind-the-scenes stuff and all the preparation and all these guys that are having all of these different things that they can pay attention to during seasons. I think that you're as much as the depth of your roster is tested, I think that the depth of your staffs are going to be tested as well because of the competition that's going to be there this year.
Yeah, one comment from Bernd on the Twitch pitch says he fears there won't be enough time again to coach up teams with the condensed schedule. Midweek games hurts system coaches like Heinze, Bradley, Almeida more than simple coaches like Arena, Schmetzer, and Porter. I disagree with you, Bernd, because it's not that different than a normal season, and I think maybe the calendar hasn't been fully explained and discussed. What they did, so a normal season that they would have that is not overly condensed would have started in March and had MLS Cup in early November. So early on, they moved everything back a month. So start beginning of April, MLS Cup early December. So no change to the amount of weeks, just pushed it back a month. Okay, now we've lost 2 weeks. So that's 2 midweek games that are going to get squeezed in. That's it. That's the only change from a 2019 calendar. It's not too bad. You know, are you going to have a little bit of schedule compression with teams who are playing in other competitions? Yeah, but nothing abnormal. And I want to see how they manage these 2 weeks and where they put these games in and how they do it. The way to avoid schedule compression would be to play them during the Gold Cup summer tournament schedule, which you're going to be missing players. I don't love that idea. I'd rather play the extra midweek games, to be honest, and deal with it. But it's not a substantial difference from a 2019 calendar. It's really not. It's 2-week difference. That's it. It's not like last year where it was figure it out as you go and just play as many games as you can. So I think it'll be okay. And I think for the managers that you mentioned, I totally agree. They need as much time to train as possible. They're going to get a normal preseason to prepare, which you didn't really get last year out after the restart. It was all over the map with group training and individual training and like modified group and then training, and then sometimes you'd have to bounce back because of COVID stuff. And then once you got into games, you didn't really have time to train. It won't be that bad this year. 2 weeks is okay. If you have issues like what we're seeing in Serie A today, we'll talk about that here in a second, yeah, it could get worse. But hopefully by the time we get into games here in about 6 weeks, we won't have as much of that issue and we'll be further along with all this stuff. So I'm hopeful that the coaches will have an ability to separate themselves.
Yeah, no, I think that for the newer coaches, I think also with this normal training period that you're going to have, I think it helps them out as well. You're getting that normal preseason, and I think that helps out when it comes to bringing in new systems and new ideas and player integration and things like that. If it was the way it was last year, I think that we would have more of a discussion and more of an issue when it comes to newer coaches and their philosophies.
We'll get back into MLS in a second. You guys have MLS questions around the league, throw them in on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here. If you are listening elsewhere, but please throw your questions in on the Twitch pitch. We will get to those in a second. We got to talk about this thing in Italy real quick, because this will be a question if it comes up in MLS, how you deal with postponements. We saw the Colorado situation last year. Last year was a whole different thing. This year, how are you going to deal with it? I hope you don't deal with it like Italy. I hope you don't deal with it like Serie A, because they're just repeating a stupid mistake again. So You have Torino's issue. They're supposed to play in Rome today against Lazio. They are not allowed to travel. The local health authorities have blocked the team from traveling to Rome. They can't go. The health authorities have said, you can't leave. Serie A has said, we're not postponing the game. Remember, this is what happened with Juventus and Napoli. And once it got appealed, it was found that the league was wrong. And they still have to make that game up. It has not been rescheduled as of yet. They have played a league game that was already scheduled. They haven't played this one. They're doing the same thing. And the head of the Italian Federation, who does not run the league, he said, we'll only get out of this situation by following the protocol. That's from Gabriele Gravina. He said, it's a fixed and very clear gentleman agreement that regulates the relationship linked to sporting competitions. Then there's another principle, that of health protection, which is the responsibility of the individual local health authorities. I don't give advice to the Liga. It has the capacity and delegation to manage the sporting competition. They will make the right decision. I believe that today there's an objective impossibility to play the match based on the requirements of the ASL. I think that's the health authority. The league will have to make a very thorough reflection thinking about the calendar since it's particularly clogged. Yes, it is. But you can't play because they can't travel. So you got to figure something out. And the other thing that complicates it is if a team has 10 positives or more, according to the regulations, they can ask for a postponement. Torino doesn't have that, but they're being told they can't travel because of the situation. So, yeah, it's not going to be postponed. Gianluca Di Marzio this morning has said the league council has reiterated there will not be a postponement. So we're going to get the same stupid show of here's a lineup for Torino. It's an hour before kickoff. Here they come out to warm up. Oh, there's no opponent for them to play. Blow the whistle. Stupid, stupid, stupid. And then Torino's going to appeal it. They're going to challenge it. It's going to go through multiple different layers of arguments. Then they're going to find, because they did, and there's a precedent already on the books, oh, yeah, you got to play the match because Torino couldn't go. They were told by their health authority they couldn't leave. And then you're going to have to deal with it later. Stupid, 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 stupid. MLS, don't be stupid. Don't do this stuff. Just be easy. Team can't play? Postpone it. Bump it back to the end. Bump it into an international window if you have to. Whatever. Don't do this nonsense. I don't want to see an MLS game where we're sitting there and like, oh, the opponent's not here because they weren't allowed to travel. Oh, they can't play. Oh, but here's the home team. They're ready to go. Don't, please don't do this. Don't be Italy. It's stupid.
Here's the AP lead on that story. More farcical scenes in Serie A are expected on Tuesday if Lazio walks out onto the Stadio Olimpico pitch, even though its Torino opponents are remaining in Turin. That's the first sentence from the AP story.
Stupid, 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 stupid.
Yes.
Anyway, very stupid. MLS questions, and if we have any on Twitter, we'll get those as well. A lot of talk about where people want to travel to games this season. A lot of people planning their travel, which I don't know when that'll look normal and when it'll be broad. I don't know what the attendances are going to look like around the league yet. You're seeing more and more talk about attendance. You're going to have attendance at the Super Clásico in Mexico here in a couple of weeks between Chivas and America in Guadalajara. So it's starting to bubble back up. I don't know what it'll look like, but can't wait. Can't wait to see you guys out on the road. It's always a lot of fun when we're in L.A. or wherever, and there's Atlanta fans there. What?
Ezra Packham has a question this morning for MLS.
Okay.
He says, which team do you think could most use a Carlos Salcedo on their roster? Reportedly, Houston offered $16 million to Tigres for him. Disregarding who made the offer, who do you think needs him most? First team that comes to mind for Ezra is LAFC. What about you?
For $16 million, LAFC is about the only team that would spend that, but I don't think they have a designated player spot for it. That's a massive expenditure for a defensive player. I don't believe Houston made a $16 million offer. Houston has said they did not make an offer. Houston said that they have been in touch with his representatives. This is from Matt Jordan, the general manager. It's a player we've tracked closely that we think is very strong, but we have not made a formal offer, just to be clear. $16 million, I wouldn't spend it on him. You can get a good defender, maybe not quite at that level, but a good defender for a whole lot cheaper in other places. So I would say nobody, but if somebody was going to get him, LAFC would be the ones that maybe need him the most. But let me take a quick look. I don't think they could make it work. Well, no, I think actually they could with Brian Rodriguez gone right now. Yeah, they could, because Rodriguez is on loan. But if that doesn't turn into a purchase, then you've got an issue in the summer. So he doesn't fix everything with them, but he would make them better. They're the only ones I could see doing it. I mean, I don't see anybody else really going for something like that. But I wouldn't do it. I would go get somebody else. I mean, I think, to be perfectly honest, like going and spending whatever Atlanta's spending on Lautaro Giannetti, somewhere between 2 and 4, I think is what I've seen, and getting him on a 5-year deal at the same age, you're going to get maybe as much or more in terms of quality for a whole lot less, and not have him count as a designated player and be able to do more with your roster. So they just need to actually do better at the basics of the center back position and the defensive positions for LAFC. They don't have to spend $16 million on one guy to fix it all.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I looked at $16 million, I'm sitting here thinking in today's landscape, you could get 2 or 3. You get 2 at 8, 3 at 5.2 or whatever.
Well, no, it's not that simple though, John. Like, you got to remember designated player spots. Like, yeah, just an unlimited cap, then sure, you could just separate $16 million and divide it out. But no, if you're LAFC, no, you couldn't do that. You have a designated player spot available. You have 1. So you couldn't go get 2 guys at 8. You could get 1 guy. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not that simple of just saying you could separate it. I'm not saying separate. I'm just saying don't spend that kind of money to begin with, because you could go and do other things with your roster. Yeah.
I guess that was my overarching point, is that with 16 you could do more than just the one thing.
To a degree, yeah. But it is more limited. Like if I'm LAFC, for example, and we pull up their roster, and this goes to a question from Martha as well. What's up with LAFC? Have they made any big moves in the offseason? Are we scared? Do they have an Achilles heel? You shouldn't be scared, because their Achilles heel is defensively, and their Achilles heel is not winning big games. That's just been the storyline for them. Defensively, goalkeeper's an issue for them. Kenneth Vermeer's under contract through 22. Cisniega has never shown that he's the guy to displace him. They've added Tomas Romero. He's young. He's 20. It's going to take him time. You've got a backline of Diego Palacios, Eddie Segura, probably Jesus David Murillo, and right back, more than likely, the new Korean player, Moon Hwan Kim, maybe Tristan Blackman. So we'll see where that falls. Good midfield. Atuesta, outstanding. This is his last year of his deal, so what's that going to look like? Janela Cifuentes, Mark Anthony Kay, all really, really good. I think Kay is one of the better players in the league. Okay. Kay and Atuesta are going into the last year of their deals. We don't know about options. You've got Vela, we know. You've got Rossi, we know. Up front, is Corey Baird the answer now? Does Christian Torres at 17 become that guy? He looked pretty good in his moments last year. I mean, is it Opoku? I think he's more of a guy off the bench. Is it Musovski? I think same thing. They don't have that elite number 9, not even as good as they've had in the past with Diamande. BWP was not as good as people remember from last year. He had a good run at the beginning and didn't really give you a whole lot later. 9 and maybe that center back next to Segura and goalkeeper are the big questions. What are they going to do if they've got a designated player spot and they feel like Rodriguez is not coming back? If I have a DP spot, I'm spending it on number 9. Because, look, I mean, with a designated player spot, you're going to spend that kind of money. You need a little bit more than you're going to get from a center back in terms of the intangibles. You're going to need to sell shirts. You're going to need to excite people. You're going to need to do those things if you're LAFC because, yeah, you've been good. You don't have an MLS Cup yet. You have a supporter shield. It's good. You had a good run in the CONCACAF. That's good. You got to win. And you also got to excite that fan base because at some point they're going to say, wait a minute, we need a little bit more. Go get an elite number 9 if it's me, if I'm LAFC. Go get an elite number 9. I think that would be the best way to spend that money, but we'll see. And then they've got to answer the questions. Rossi, Atuesta, K. You keeping all of them? You signing them in new deals? You selling? What are you going to do with those 3? I don't know. I'd go get a number 9 right now while you got them.
Okay.
If you're going to ride it out, and I'm assuming, because we haven't heard rumors about Atuesta, we haven't heard rumors about K, I'm assuming you're going to ride it out with those guys for now. Maybe you've got options on them for next season. Okay, that would make sense. You're coming to the end of a run here, because Vela's 32.
Yeah.
You know, Rossi's going to be in Europe at some point. Atuesta's going to be in Europe at some point. Janela and Cifuentes aren't going to be here forever. Like, you brought them in to be the next ones to then go. Kay, if he's going to go to Europe, he would go now at 26 years old. So this might be the last ride of this group. So go get a top number 9 to score goals.
Yeah, because with all of these contracts that might have 1 or 2 years left, all these guys that should be heading on to European theater or other places, I mean, it's a decision, and to get those goals, to win those big games, I think that you've got to get that number 9 as that added piece instead of looking at something at the back, even though the back is where you have your issues.
Yeah, everybody's dreaming of 22 travel, sorry. I think some people are dreaming of 21 travel, but maybe at the end of the season. So hopefully there is a game in November on Decision Day on the road that everybody wants to go see. We'll see. It's so hard to predict at this point. What else we have on Twitter?
International stuff from Tafka. When we get to the 2030 World Cup, Tafka's pretty jacked up about the idea of what was thought out this morning by Boris Johnson.
He's jacked up about the idea? Okay, go ahead and proceed.
Yes, please. Yes, pretty please, yes. And this is basically in all caps.
What?
I beg of you, FIFA, yes.
Wait, what?
England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland are coming together to bid for the 2030 World Cup, according to our friends at NBC Sports. And
why are we so excited about
this? But I will die on the hill that you put that damn World Cup back in Uruguay.
Yes.
For the 100th anniversary.
Yes. That is what you do. It's the 100th anniversary of the tournament.
It has to go to Uruguay.
Well, no, it doesn't have to go to Uruguay.
Well, but I mean, for the centennial, I think you've got to do it. It's like the Olympics.
Hold on a minute. What happened with the Olympics? Did they go to Athens in that 100th year?
They missed out on that one. That's where I said it should have been in
was Athens really ready to have it in 96?
Oh, no.
Athens wasn't ready to have it in 2004.
They weren't ready to have it either.
Bingo. That's the whole point. Can you have a 48?
The only Olympic city in the last 25 years that has gotten any use out of any of their facilities.
Can you take a 20 or no? It'd be a 48 team World Cup to Uruguay in 2030. Really? Could you do that?
I doubt it very seriously.
Well, that's why when you say it has to go there, I'm like, wait a minute. Now, no.
What?
Let me finish. Well, okay, then explain it. Why does it have to go there? Just tell me, because you don't have the facilities.
No, I'm just yeah, I know they need the facilities. I'm just saying for the emotion of the centennial, that's where it should go. That's my point. But do they have the facilities? Do they have the facilities to pull off a 48 team tournament? No. But what this also does is it gives them 9 years to get to that point.
You're not building enough stadiums.
Split it between other countries. Everyone else is making multiple.
Jarrett, you're making too much sense. Let me finish this real fast because John's got to get cleaned up with this. You don't have enough space in Uruguay to have a 48-team tournament. You're not going to build enough stadiums for teams that are actually going to get used afterwards. Brazil hasn't used all their stadiums afterwards. So, no, you're not going to just shove it into Uruguay. But there's a country right next door that has won 2 World Cups as well that you could have a joint bid, and they've talked about doing these things, called Argentina.
I've heard of that.
And they have a bunch of stadiums. And, yes, some of them need work. But between the two, could you do a 48-team tournament? Yes. And they've talked about it. Now, I don't know where it actually stands, but if it is between those two, you do get the emotional pull of 20, 30, 100 years. In Uruguay, you can have the final at the Centenario in Montevideo. Very cool. You can have a semifinal at El Monumental after all the work they've done at River Stadium. You've got plenty of other places to do the big games. It would be amazing. It would be the best thing they could do from an emotional perspective.
Yes.
The facilities would have to be there. They would absolutely have to be there. And the facilities are a much easier thing in the UK. There's just no way around it. You don't really need to do a ton over this time frame. You would in Uruguay and Argentina, and that would be the hang-up, is can you get it done? Because these are two countries that are not exactly flowing in riches of money right now. And we know how any event like this is going to be. Athens couldn't do it. They gave them more time to get ready to do the 100th and plus edition of the Olympics. They weren't really in a great position to do it. It's not going to be easy. And, I mean, Jarrett, I think going forward, Olympics, World Cups, you're going to be down to like 5-6 places you can actually have these events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody's realized what, like, economists have known for a while is that it's not financially a brilliant idea to do Olympics or World Cups. Everyone's kind of finally caught up to this. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason Beijing is doing the next Winter Games. They've got the facilities already, and no one else really wanted the next Winter Games.
Yep.
Go back and look at what it cost Salt Lake to do it back in, was it 2002?
I think it was.
Yeah. Go back and look at what it costs them. Go back and look at what the cost of the Olympic Games are every 4 years, even every 2 years you factor in the Winter Games. It's exponential growth in terms of cost. World Cup, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. It's an obscene amount of cost. And especially, like, look at what Brazil did. Like, you building these stadiums in the middle of nowhere that aren't getting used.
So stupid.
And it's awesome, I'm sure, for your country to host it, in the modern age. And sounds like we'll get to experience that in a couple of years. But it's financially tough. And especially coming out of the COVID years, it's going to be real interesting, and I'm going to be real interested to see what the entire UK looks like in 2030 between Brexit, between Scotland wanting another independence vote.
Yeah.
Who's going to want this? Who's going to want that? How do you put that together? Possible? Sure, absolutely. Uruguay putting together a bid with other countries in South America, though, sounds like a lot of fun. And imagine for a second and be romantic about it, that you get a World Cup final in Uruguay in a fancy new stadium to mark the 100th anniversary.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have to do a fancy new stadium in Uruguay. You've got the Centenario that was built for the 30th World Cup, and you just put in work. Yeah, you put in the work, and that's a much easier way to do it. A couple things. Ricky and Thomas Jewin have added that Chile and Paraguay have joined the party for the joint bid. They have talked about it in 2019. I don't know where it stands now, mid-pandemic or towards the back end of the pandemic. So we have to see. I don't think there's any bidding for this until next year, So there's plenty of time for these things to sort out. But I agree with Bernd and a few others on the Twitch pitch. Like, and probably the Olympics are going to have to look at this as well. The multiple country types of tournaments are going to be essential. You can't do what they're doing in 2022 again. You can't do what the Winter Olympics did in Sochi again. You can't do those things because it's too costly to do this. And IOC and FIFA don't let you do what Atlanta did. I mean, look, Atlanta's the last event like this. World Cups are a little different. World Cups are a little bit harder to gauge on this because FIFA, they're crafty. But on the Olympics, they changed procedures after Atlanta actually did okay financially with the Olympics because they sold sponsorships. They sold the hell out of it.
About it.
Yeah, Salt Lake turned a profit back in 2002 with what they did.
Yeah, winter's a whole different category, though. I didn't know that, actually. I thought Atlanta was the last one.
You'd be thinking about the Turin games, then.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way.
I know they changed procedures after the 96 because they didn't allow you to commercialize it as much. But you have to commercialize it to not lose your shirt. So, anyway, there's only going to be a few places that can have these kinds of events unless, with the World Cup, you do what we're seeing in 26, what we will see in 30 in some form or fashion. I mean, if it's all in the UK or if it's all in the southern half of South America, okay, it's going to take those kinds of conglomerations to hold these events. It's just impossible to do it the way it's been done in the past.
Yeah, and it's going to take these partnerships and those countries that are running solo for Olympic Games. They're not based on capitalist structures.
Well, here's the ones that could do it solo, because there are some countries that could do, and let's leave the Olympics to the side because it's not Olympics down here, and that's even more confusing. Let's keep it in the World Cup side. Okay. Johannes has a good point. Like Germany and what happened in 2006, like the excitement of having it in one country, the excitement, the energy, all of it is powerful. I think, and if I'm way off base here, Johannes and Bernd, who I think you would know as well, like tell me I'm wrong, but I know one of the big conversations with that World Cup was a feeling of coming together in Germany that isn't something they're normally accustomed to. Like you saw German flags everywhere, and everybody was really pumped for the national team, and it was kind of that perfect storm and really an exciting moment for the country. Germany could have a World Cup by themselves. I mean, the UK, look, it's a little more complicated in terms of FIFA membership, but yes, the United Kingdom could have a World Cup on their own if they want to, and they can include the Republic of Ireland if they want to. I know it's different.
Ask Scotland and Ireland how they feel about putting on an English shirt.
I'm not. No. I'm not saying put on an English shirt. No. I'm talking about a country because for FIFA membership, I keep
thinking about like the team Great Britain.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying like the UK is a little special when it comes to FIFA because they were there at the beginning and they got things grandfathered in, like having a separate Scottish team and a separate Welsh team and a separate Northern Irish team. Most countries don't have that kind of situation anyway. Who else could do it on their own at this point? United States, obviously. Spain. France, I think.
Yeah.
Italy, but you're going to have to renovate a lot of old stadiums. And I'm talking like see, I don't want to... Bart says China, and possibly, and I know they've talked about 2030. I don't know the stadium situation in China as much. I'm thinking more from like soccer infrastructure in that country. And I don't know where they would be. Italy would have to have the upgrades to stadiums. And Nick, that's kind of where I was thinking too. Nick and Domer are going at. Spain could, Germany could, the UK could, United States could.
Yeah.
Can Italy actually upgrade their stadiums, though? Because you can't dig 5 feet in Italy without hitting a historical
You'd have
artifact.
to upgrade what's there. You wouldn't be able to build new. Like, that's the thing, is outside of maybe a few areas, you would be renovating what's there.
Yeah.
And you have to build it out on the ocean.
Well, or that. It'd be tough. Like, I mean, really, you're getting down to realistically, of course, China would spend the money, and that's a whole other conversation. And
Russia
would do the same. But even including them in this conversation, that's it. The Netherlands couldn't do it on their own. Belgium couldn't do it on their own. I don't think anybody in South America outside of Brazil could do it on their own, and they won't do it again after what happened in 2014. Right. Mexico would be a strong possibility. They've done it twice. Could they do the 48-team tournament on their own? I think they probably could. That's it. I don't think Australia could do it on their own. I don't think Japan could do it on their own. We're out. That's it. That's all.
I mean, that's like, what, 8 max?
8 stretching to like a couple that would spend the money to build a bunch of stuff, and then it probably wouldn't be successful and wouldn't get used long term. The ones that could do it on a regular basis, if you dropped it into their house tomorrow, Germany, probably France, Spain, the UK, the United States, maybe Mexico. That might be a stretch. I think that's it. That could do it tomorrow. Yeah, it's not going to be easy.
And that's it for me.
Okay,
I'm leaving you.
Well, all right then, Jared. Sorry to drive you away. We're very sorry.
All this Olympic talk is just too much.
I know. You're just waiting on curling to come back.
I am so excited for John Schuster to be the most hit and miss curler on the face of the earth again.
We will see. Looking forward to it. But Jarrett, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Cool. We are going to go ahead and jump a couple minutes ahead.
Oh, wow.
It's not that big of a deal. Jarrett just missed out. Bartomeu Prime curled last night.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty sweet. John's stretching for some reason, so you know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what it means, but it means something is about to happen, and that something is where John tells us about our good friend in Decatur, Steve Apolinsky.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place that you need to contact, and it is Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. How do I contact this firm, you may ask? A couple different ways that you can do it. You can give them a phone call, get a free consultation at 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve at aa-legal.com. Or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, type in aa-legal.com in the address bar, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances your particular device to the homepage. And if your question is not answered, through the wealth of information that is there on the homepage for Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, you will also see a pop-up window pop up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up, strangely enough. 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. And you can get your question answered there by the individual or individuals on the other end of said pop-up window if the homepage has not helped you to the level that you are requiring. Recognized as legal by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia, over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in 2 separate time zones, the Eastern and the Central, clients in Georgia and Alabama. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's one place you need to go. It is Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
Okay, that was on the longish side. Not too bad. Scores will be incoming. I threw people off by going like a minute or two early on that, so Abby was yelling. It happens sometimes. Conversation stops. I wasn't going to ask him a question because there's no telling where it would have gone, and then we would have done the read at like 10:05, and it was time to just go ahead and get it done. Ricky says you lost a point already at the beginning. I don't know what you did. Weird pacing in the middle. Cats and dogs rain off the rails. Smooth. Seems fast already. Good David Byrne imitation. +1, 8 overall. For absolutely no reason in reality whatsoever. 7.2. 8. 8.8. Good cadence. All the greatest hits. Comforting like an old blanket. Nice read today, solid 9, 8.2, 5.7, up and down pacing, felt weird throughout. Not terrible, 8.5. The West Russian judge with the 5.7. It's not quite as harsh as the East German judge. I think this is a pretty good read. Cut the pause. The music doesn't come across loud enough on Twitch to warrant it. 7.9. If I go louder with the music, Martha, then he complains, so I try not to do that. 7.4. We need to kill the gap. Legal and .com.
Oh,
Nick does not care for that.
Not happening.
-1 too long. -10 for me because I started too early. Jeez.
Oh, wow.
Okay, next time I'll ask him about Bad Bunny at that point, and then we won't have a read until like 10:15 because I'll be on the floor because of something nonsensical that is said. Sean Vergara is feeling Swedish today, an 8.1254. An 8, decent. -1 for the stretching, no need for it.
Minus before the read. How does that count for a minus?
It all goes into it. -1 for thinking it is strange that pop-up windows pop up. -1 for thinking we don't know what time zones are in Georgia and Alabama. 7. 8 out of 10. Oh, the South Georgia scoring system has reverted to the normal scoring system.
Oh, wow, okay.
You're on a heater lately. 8.675309.
Jenny.
8.85. 7.5. Very aggressive intonation. Good energy, but that pause at the end. ... 7.5.
See, that's an homage to Pat Summerall, though. That's.
Steve, the music volume was low. No dings to John. Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping it low so it doesn't throw him off. If I go even up one more notch, then it throws him off. So I'm doing the best I can. DM Tim muted it, but you got an 8.5 anyway.
Thank you, Tim.
7.8. -3 for being early, and that's on me and Abby. I'm sorry. Next time I will ask him about Bad Bunny, and I make no guarantees of what happens. Plus 1.5 since Abby missed the first half of it or 3/4 of it. Stealing comments to score, Abby gives you a 7.958, I think.
Okay.
Ricky, we're getting there. You relax a second. I think that's it. Okay.
Breaking sponsor news, please.
Okay. That's a weird one. I didn't expect that.
News out of Angel City Football Club. They're announcing Birdies, a female-founded direct-to-consumer footwear brand, as the team's founding sleeve sponsor. As the team's exclusive sleeve patch partner, the logo will be positioned on the right shoulder of the official kit, appear on home and away jerseys, all authentic and replica first-team jerseys available to consumers, and any special edition first-team jerseys. This summer, the team's color crest, kit, and logo merchandise will be revealed, while the exclusive Angel City and Birdies shoe collaboration will be released in spring of 2022.
Okay.
So they now have a main jersey sponsor and a sleeve sponsor. So Angel City right now 2 for 2 with their stuff on their jerseys.
Alrighty then. Breaking news. All right, other breaking news. It is March 2nd. I know, that's shocking. And we've got some on this day to talk about. And we will start on the soccer front. So you got 3 birthdays that I felt like were important on this day. One, manager, PSG, Maurizio Pochettino. Happy birthday to Poch.
Happy birthday.
One, to a U.S. men's national team legend that gets left out of the discussion far too often. Ante Razov. Manager now, smacking people in the face in the CONCACAF Champions League. Good on you, Ante. Have a happy birthday. And one close to home, celebrating his 38th birthday, Atlanta United's Lisandro Lopez. The veteran coming in to bring some veteran leadership to the side. Lisandro Lopez celebrating his 38th birthday today. Now, also on this day in Atlanta soccer history, 2015 is the time on this day that Carlos Bocanegra was hired as technical director for what would be named Atlanta United later. They were still just MLS Atlanta at that point. So Carlos Bocanegra, this is his 6th anniversary of his hire here in Atlanta.
Wow.
And then you want to go way, way, way back, and I know you guys and your Auburn love for yelling about War Eagles or Tigers or Plainsmen, and you can't decide on a name, and I don't know what they were called at this point.
Sir. Drummer will come after you.
I don't care. It's Auburn. Y'all are going to make up some new nickname here in a minute. The first soccer game played by a Southern college or university happened on this day in 1912. When the Atlanta Soccer Football Club, which I think that was the name at that point, I don't know if they really had an official name. It was a conglomeration of people who played the game here in Atlanta. They went down south to Auburn to play. The club team at Auburn, you didn't really have like official NCAA competition at this point, even really any sport, especially in soccer. It was the first soccer match played by a Southern college or university, and the Atlanta team won 2-1. But it was the legendary football coach and athletic director at Auburn, Mike Donahue, who organized the soccer team. He was a big proponent of soccer, and Auburn was the Southern college university that at this time was really trying to make soccer a thing. I've seen through my research, like, I think 1 year, maybe two in the 20s, Georgia tried to do a team. Auburn was consistent with it, and they would play the teams in the area that were trying to make soccer happen at this time in the country. So you had a league in Birmingham that was very strong. I think the Auburn team would play some of those teams. They played the Atlanta teams. A week later after this in 1912, they came up and played a return match at Piedmont Park. The Auburn team was active for, I think, most of the time that Donahue was there going into the 20s. So they were the ones who tried to do it. So as much crap as I give you Auburn people, you guys were the ones who tried to make soccer happen in this neck of the woods. So very, very cool. You did lose in this game, though, by the way, just to remind you of that. And you were probably called the Plainsmen in this game for some reason, because I don't know. Anyway, on the music front, got 3 birthdays. J-Dub, I've not seen a photo of that Auburn team. I'm sure I can find one, and absolutely Salty Domer, 100%. I don't know what's out there. I'll see what I can find. Patrick Sullivan, who does a ton of this research on the early days of it, he's probably got a lot more on that than I do. But I'll see what we can find. I believe there are some pictures of teams, but I don't know if it's this one. There was an effort, like there was this effort before World War I that tried to get soccer going in the South. Of course, World War I, it all kind of went away for a while. There was another effort in the 20s, especially in Atlanta, that then kind of got scuppered as you got into the Great Depression and the first generation of people who were mostly expats and trying to make it happen. That's where Auburn was actually kind of unique, because they were trying to make it happen in college and teaching the game. The Atlanta guys were mostly, folks from Scotland, from England, who had come over and were then trying to grow the game. It didn't really grow. So when that first generation wasn't playing anymore or, moved away, the game kind of fizzled out, and it took a long time for it to come back. But Auburn really gave it a go. So props. It wasn't pros, Ricky. There was no pro going on. I think they might have had a barbecue smoker after the game or something. Maybe they got a couple bucks to, I don't know, to travel on the train to go down to Auburn. That's about it. It was grown men, and there was probably some grown men in the Auburn team as well. It's just weird stuff. Anyway, okay, music, birthdays, 3 interesting ones. We're going to go from most recent to the oldest. Most recent, born same year as me, but about a month later. Chris Martin, a Coldplay. What's your favorite Coldplay song, John?
Oh, it's not Clocks. It's give me a second. Yeah, keep going through the other birthdays. I'll let you know.
No, I want you to figure this out.
Well, then I'm going to do clicky clack.
You can clicky clack.
All right.
He has to clicky clack to figure out what his favorite Coldplay song is.
Well, it's like I know the song and I know the lyrics, but I want to give the title instead of.
Why don't you sing it for us, John?
No, you don't want that, sir.
Why don't you tell us the lyrics then?
Nah.
You're not going to do that either?
No, you don't want that.
Okay, I'll tell you something about Coldplay that I really liked. I'm not a huge fan, but I don't dislike them at all either. I liked their early stuff a good bit when they first came out. They were the logical follow up for World Cup bands because it was U2 like 2 in a row. The U2 stuff that ESPN and ABC did in 2006 was great. It all worked with that album. It was very cool. The montages they did were cool. It made sense for Coldplay to become that down the road because they're just in that realm. I found it a couple years ago. They did an Argentine tour, and they covered a song, De Música Ligera, which is a classic from Soda Stereo, which is probably the biggest ever rock band from Argentina. And they covered it and did a pretty good job of it. And Chris Martin sang it in Spanish and did a good job. And the videos are cool because I don't think the crowd expected it at all to see a band come in and cover the song in Spanish and do a really cool job of it. There's a lot of videos of that on YouTube, and I think they put it on a live album as well. So they grew in my respect for them when they did that. I thought that was really cool. John is still pounding away on a keyboard to figure out a song.
Well, I mean, one of them's Violet Hill.
Okay.
And then
I like that you went off the board for one. That's good.
Yeah, and then Talk, obviously. So
good call.
So Talk and Violet Hill, I would probably say, are two of my top.
Coldplay is very, very solid, and I get why some people don't like them, but they get hated on too much. They're just very, very solid. 1962, born on this day, John Bon Jovi. How you feel about the Bon Jovi?
I wish I had his hair.
You wish you had Bon Jovi's hair. You envious of John's hair.
I am envious of John Bon Jovi's hair.
Don't be like that.
That he still has a full head of hair and it looks great gray.
Yeah, he's kind of let it go. He's just rocking it these days.
Yeah.
Maybe the best of the very narrow arena rock category. I think they got lumped into hair metal at times. I didn't really look at them that way. The very small era of arena rock.
Arena rock.
Bon Jovi felt like the epitome of the arena rock band. They were maybe the most fun arena show that I've ever seen. Because it was as cliched, and I didn't see them in the 80s, which would have been, I think, the best time to see them, obviously. But the show was exactly what you would expect. They came out, they did their songs. They did a couple of new songs, of course, because they have to. And their new stuff's fine. Again, it's okay. I think the time that I saw them, they brought out Jennifer Nettles from Sugarland, and they did the duet that they had out. What was it? You can't go home, or
Can't Go Home,
something like that.
Yeah.
They did that, and then she guested with them on "Living on a Prayer," which is great. That was my first soccer song, by the way. The first year I played indoor, my friend Antonio and his family would always pick me up to go to games up at the soccer center in Lilburn, and we would always listen to "Living on a Prayer" to get pumped up for the game as like 10-year-olds. It was awesome. But then after that, they did the encores, and they make all the encores this big deal. Well, they didn't play "Wanted Dead or Alive." And they left it out. They came back and did an encore. They went back. They came back and did another encore. They went back. They came back and did a third encore. And I think they played one more song, one of their big hits, and they still hadn't played "Wanted Dead or Alive." They did the whole deal where like they do their bows. They're walking back. The crowd's getting louder and louder and chanting for it. The lights are up. Like everything tells you it's over. And you see the camera like following them on the big screen, walking down the hallway, and the crowd's getting louder and louder. And then John stops, and the crowd gets even louder. And then he like does the slow turn, smiling like a lunatic, and it gets even louder. And then they come back and do "Wanted Dead or Alive," and it was like the cheesiest rock moment, but it was great. It was perfect. So. I love that they embrace the cheese at times. Johannes says, one of the 5 live concerts I've attended in person in my life. Johannes, we got to get you to more concerts, my friend. Fun band. Absolutely fun band. And in 1942, Lou Reed was born on this day in Brooklyn, New York. Incredibly influential in rock. You a Lou Reed fan? Velvet Underground fan?
Velvet Underground, Sweet Jane.
Okay.
And then obviously, if you want to get into Lou Reed as a musician, you have to go to Transformer and then work your way backwards.
Well, no, you can listen to whatever you want. We're not going to be, we're not going to tell people that, no, you have to do it this way. Lou Reed had good stuff throughout his career. But I found Velvet Underground through REM, which is how I found a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Because REM covered, I want to say 4 or 5 Velvet Underground songs in their early days. So when I got obsessed with REM, I'd get bootlegs and they'd cover Femme Fatale and they'd cover Pale Blue Eyes. And I'd be like, who is this? What? And then I'd go and listen to Velvet Underground. So I discovered a lot of bands from that. Coco says, John embracing snobbery? Never. We will never be snobbish about music on this show. We will never be snobbish about soccer on this show. And if John does, then I'll get mad about it. Nick Alifi says, Bon Jovi was early hair metal that moved to soft rock. I guess that created arena rock.
There you go. Arena rock.
It's just like there's not a whole lot of bands in that, and there's overlap, of course, but they're not hair metal. I mean, Runaways was their first huge song, and it's not hair metal. They were just rock, and they were fun. But those are your 3 big music birthdays. Gustavo's yelling at me because I didn't go a little deeper and include Larry Carlton, guitarist, and Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters, also celebrating birthdays. I'm sorry, Gustavo. I was trying to hit 3. Since I mentioned Bon Jovi and that Living on a Prayer was my first soccer pump-up song, what was your first soccer pump-up song, whether you were playing, whether it was before you'd go to a game? Tell us on the Twitch. Tell us on Twitter. Let us know what that is for you, your first soccer pump-up song. So it could be as a kid. It could be as a very young kid. It might be as an adult when you started going to games. I just want to know what your favorite pump-up song was. Mine changed over the years. I mean, of course, as I got older, Head Like a Hole was that for me in high school, 9 Inch Nails, because it was on our pregame. I think it actually was a mixed tape, not a mixed CD. It's 1995. It was early days. And then when I was playing later as a fully grown adult, it depended on what I was playing. If I was playing in goal and intramurals in college, I would listen to something exceedingly angry because I was playing goalkeeper, usually an indoor, and it was a hybrid kind of futsal on a basketball court, but we were using that stupid tennis ball looking thing and bouncing it off the walls in the gym, so it was complete and utter madness. And I'd be diving around on the hardwood floor, so I needed to be angry to psych myself up to do it, so I'd listen to Pantera Walk. But when I was playing on the field in games, I'd usually play as a central midfielder. So I would listen to something with a groove to it because I wanted to be in the zone and be chill. So I couldn't listen to Pantera doing that.
No. For me, it was, and this is a blatant carryover from growing up watching wrestling. It was Tom Sawyer by Rush.
Okay. And you got to explain the wrestling reference.
Yeah, Kerry Von Erich used the song as his walkout music. And Modern Day Warrior, Mean Means Drive, today's Tom Sawyer, Mean Mean Drive, and that the riff in the song. And I agreed with that. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And so that kind of listening to Rush and Tom Sawyer was the avenue that I would go down.
Okay. For me now, when I'm driving to the bins, and it's really early before a game, but just to kind of get going, I've went through different things. I've had for a number of years, I've had an Atlanta-based rap playlist. And it's mostly older stuff. I mean, again, I'm a little bit older, so it's a lot of Outkast, a lot of T.I., a lot of Killer Mike, Goody Mob, Shawty Low. I mean, it's 2010 and back generally. So I've had that, and I've added stuff and taken away from it. A lot of Bubba Sparks on there, too. last year when things weren't going well, I felt like I needed to change it up. So I did a separate playlist, like a just pump up playlist that was all over the place. A lot of rock in there. A lot of like Rocky IV soundtrack stuff, stuff like that. So I don't know what I'm going to do this year yet. I might go back to the old school. I might try something different. So I always had like a routine when I'd drive to games. I didn't do it on the road when we'd go to games because it was always different. But going to games here, I always had like a playlist I would play. What? Go ahead.
Michael Head says, thanks to the shout out to Auburn.
Yeah, shout out to Auburn.
Another Auburn person. He says,
shout out to
Plainsman. And Michael also says he was at that same Bon Jovi concert as you.
Oh, yeah?
The missus is in love with John Bon Jovi. Seen him about 5 times. They always put on a great show.
I've seen him twice, and I would go see them again because it's just a fun show. I mean, it's just fun. And rock can be fun. It can be fun. I mean, it can be edgy, and it can be angsty, and it can be a lot of things, but it can be fun, too. And Bon Jovi is just fun. Okay, songs that people have suggested, or artists or whatever, for their pump-up song before we get back into the news. KFC, Pennywise or Offspring. I think I've done some Offspring and pump-up stuff over the years. I think that was on my angry list. Sandstorm from Ricky.
Yeah.
Galvanized Chemical Brothers from Ragamuffin. That's a good call. I got to go back on that one. I haven't heard that in years. Mazzano, this is another one that's been on my list. Bodies by Drowning Pool. As a forward, I'm known for my art challenges. See, I couldn't play that as a forward. I needed something with a groove when I was playing on the field. But if I was playing goalkeeper, Bodies was on there. Light It Up, Shiva's got it. Bro Him from Nick. Yep, that's absolutely a good one. Several locker room injuries may have occurred. Yeah, that's accurate too. GH with Wave and Flag from the 2010 World Cup. Still the best World Cup song, period. No question about it. I will argue with you if you say otherwise. We'll have a debate. But Wave and Flag's the best. I'm just going to tell you that now. Alex Pacine, Thunderstruck. Yeah, that's a good one. I always think of Varsity Blues when I hear that, though, now. Walk is Key pregame. Steve, yes. What else we got? Eye of the Tiger. Always a good one. That's from Abby. Dropkick Murphys from Five Takes. Cadence to Arms. Bagpipes and guitars is a good combination. I agree. Cassie says hype music was seasonal, rock for soccer, rap for basketball. I'd mix streams all the time. I'm musically schizophrenic if you haven't been able to tell from our music conversations before. And Abby rocked out on a boombox like Darren had on the Hindsight tweet. I didn't have a boombox for that stuff. That would have been cool.
Absolutely.
I want an old school like functional boombox now. I need that. Martha says Footy Mob has a great Atlanta playlist on Spotify. I have checked that out. It is really good. Yeah, a lot of my stuff overlaps with that, but I'll usually go back to stuff from a lot of it when I was DJing at that time, or just stuff that I loved. So like I'll get it more to make it personal. Like I'll throw a bunch of Bubba Sparks in there too because I knew him, and I'll throw his mix in there too. So yeah, Nick, Nick says if I don't put Hearts on Fire on the playlist, I failed. That was on my playlist. Don't worry. And the other montage song that didn't have words. I can't remember what it's called officially. Danger Zone from Top Gun. Yes, I think that was on my inspirational playlist that I did last year. Ricky goes with a lot of reggaeton, Bad Bunny, J Balvin, Daddy Yankee, and we'll get back to that in 1 second. A lot of people on the Footy Mob playlist. Master of Puppets, starting on defense, Nick would say. Let's see. I Know the Truth by Pretty Lights from J-Dub. That is one I do not know. I will write that down. I'm going to go John with us and write it down. Pretty Lights. I Know the Truth. Cool. This is what I like to do and find new music because I'm trying to find new stuff. I miss the days when there'd be like Tuesday new release day and you get to listen to all the new CDs in the music store. Chop Suey by System of a Down from Domer. Iron Maiden. Let's see what else we got. Genesis in the Air Tonight from Domer. Okay. Gustavo, Bonnie Tyler, It's a Heartache. Used when I was a kid in Argentine stadiums in the 70s. Changed the lyrics totally. That's pretty cool. I like that. Johannes will not admit what he listens to in the car driving to the stadium. Come on, man.
Come on.
It's a safe space, Johannes.
I mean, seriously, if I sat there and I've admitted to the Bee Gees and ABBA.
That's not bad, John. The Bee Gees and ABBA are amazing artists. That's not bad. It's not.
Johannes.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
I still hear folks sit there and attack anybody that wants to listen to those kinds of things.
Well, and those people are called wrong. That's what you call them.
Some
or
of
snobs.
the flat out best harmonies that you can ever have in music. When you're
so you get attacked for listening to that, but you got all disgusted about Justin Bieber. Maybe you need to learn from that, and we're going to talk about your homework in a second.
Sure.
Lots of Metallica, lots of System of a Down, Van Halen right now, Nirvana, good calls.
Yeah,
I heard Right Now for the first time in like probably 15 years the other day. That's a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect Tommy, of course, listens to Dupe. Philadelphia Union. I get it. I understand. Okay, that can work. That's a really cool thing that Philadelphia's created with that. I like it. I really like that. Bad Brains. Some love for Bubba Sparks. Very cool. Bubba and Blink-182 on the Dollar Bill Tour in Detroit. That's an interesting show. We Care a Lot from Faith No More. That's another really good one, Uncle No Pockets. Really, really good one. Ricky, I do hit the New Music Friday playlist on Spotify. Absolutely. I just miss the being able to actually crack open a CD in the music store and like leave the tape on the top. So, we could still sell it later, but actually get to sample stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. People did that, by the way. If you had like the shrink wrap machine in the back of your store, you were set. Because you could listen to anything you wanted to. You'd leave the little tape at the top. You'd open it from the bottom, and then you could sample it. You could play it in the store, and then when it was time to sell or ship it back, you'd put it back, shrink wrap it, done. Good. That happened. You probably bought a CD that had been opened before at some point. Hate to burst the illusion. Gustavo likes ABBA and the Bee Gees, and then Gustavo's a rock guy. So, John, you can stop worrying about that. Katie says no shame in ABBA
I didn't
love.
say I'm worried about it. I just said that I get grief for it.
Very good. KFC, Morse Brown by Outkast. That's an awesome one. Good calls on Faith No More. Awesome. Good stuff. Nick would go to Sam Goody or Turtles to find stuff. Yep.
Peaches.
Camelot is where I worked. The first music store I worked at. Warehouse Music a little bit later. I went to Turtles as a kid. All that. Very cool. Okay. John had homework yesterday on our musical discussion.
Yep.
Because he was thoroughly disgusted by Justin Bieber's name coming up, who was celebrating a birthday yesterday. And as Ricky Ricardo said, I was the same way. When Bieber became a young adult and put out some new stuff, it's like, wow, this feels like a completely different person. It's not the little boy who was singing little Disney things. I told you to go listen to some of the Bieber with Bad Bunny and J Balvin. What did you think, John?
I'm not a fan of auto-tune.
You're not a fan of auto-tune, so you're going to go back to music snob again and talk about this. That's half of the discussion here. Okay. But you just immediately started with your first impression is you don't like auto-tune. Okay.
Yes, that's my first impression. That is a universal thing.
Fair enough.
And in my homework, chasing after Justin Bieber, not a fan of auto-tune, and listening to the J Balvin stuff with Bieber yesterday and this morning, I'm like, nope. I literally, when I hear one of the collaborators sit there and go, yeah, for 35 seconds, that doesn't do anything for me when it comes to a song.
What does something for you? When
However,
you listen to
the song Intentions with Quavo, I actually liked.
You sound
because
surprised.
There was no auto-tune attached to it. And also, when I found out that there is support for Alexandria's House, which is a mission to help crisis to stabilizing homes, and you can donate to things like that, I thought that it was a fantastic cause. But the collaboration, and that was the word I was looking for, the collaboration of Bieber and Quavo for the song Intentions, I really liked. So the auto-tuned Justin Bieber, not a fan.
Okay.
So when you get into like original stuff, okay, so here's what I listened to Turndale from 2018, and then Vamos, which had Maluma, Ozuna, J Balvin, Bad Bunny, and Bieber. And I'm like, no, that's just not happening. But the collaboration with Quavo...
Nope, that's just not happening.
No. Like I said, I get like 35 seconds in, I'm hearing, yeah, and there's auto-tune, and it's just not that's not going anywhere.
You don't like Shine by Collective Soul either, do you? Because he says yeah a few times, and he says
but that's not auto-tune. I like Collective Soul.
So the yeah is not the issue.
No, the auto-tune is the issue.
You don't like T-Pain?
No.
You didn't like Cher's Believe?
No.
Okay, so you just have a huge issue with auto-tune. Okay, got it.
Yes, huge issue with auto-tune. But, yeah, Turndale with Maluma, Zayn, Bad Bunny, Ozuna, J Balvin, and Bieber, La Ultima Vez with Ozuna, Bad Bunny, and Anuel AA. No, not happening. But stuff with intention, like, seriously, when he's there with Quavo and it's intentions, I like that. So just stay away from the auto-tune button in the store, and then we're okay.
I love it.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. I didn't think.
Give me original stuff. I want to hear your pipes. I want to feel your lyrics. I want to hear your pipes. I don't want to hear a machine sit there and tweak your vocal cords and your thought pattern. Give me original stuff.
I could care less if it's a machine tweaking it, because pretty much any band, any artist that records anything since the early 90s has machines involved in making it. So it's a weird line to draw, but okay, that's fine.
Yeah, just like I said, just not a fan of auto-tune.
You tried. It's a good step. Don't be so close-minded about it, and you can actually like it for other reasons than the auto-tune-ish, but you gave it an effort, and I appreciate that. And that was really funny to hear you talk about those songs in that way. So
like I said, that was homework, and I know that I know that in discussing topics like music, I'm not going to be able to, because I'm a poor BSer anyway. So I have to come up with the songs that I listen to, so that way you know what I'm listening to, and I'm not just making song titles and collaborations up out of thin air. It's like, well, I never heard about that. I can't challenge you on that. I actually physically have to sit here and tell you the songs that I listen to, so you know that I'm listening to actual songs. I can't just sit there and say, well, Justin Bieber and Johnny Depp, the song that they did back in like the late, 2000s, it was tremendous. No, I can't do that. It has to be legit songs with actual artists and collaborations that came out. So I can't sit there and just give you random combinations because you call me on it.
Yeah, and I now want to hear Justin Bieber and Johnny Depp do a song together. I'm intrigued.
Depp will probably play guitar and sing background.
And we need to find a way for you to use auto-tune in your reads from now on, as has been suggested. I like this too. Wow, okay. That was interesting. Okay. Other stuff in the soccer world that we need to discuss before we go fully into questions and all kinds of madness. We've got a few more MLS preseason things to hit on. Manchester City plays today in England in the Premier League. They are looking for win number 21 in a row in all competitions. They are hosting Wolves, who have won 2 of their last 3 against City. Guardiola said all the normal things before the game. The history against them dictates, shows us how tough it is. They play with your ambition and patience to punish you. You have to be so clever in the way you play. In the last years, it was so tough because of the quality and the structure they have, and this year will be no exception. Pep can dig into the cliches and tweak them and make them fit into Pep world really well. Manchester City should win this. However, Wolves have not lost in their last 5 in the Premier League, and they've won 3 of those. It should be a Manchester City win, even with all of the downplaying and sandbagging from Pep. What do the juice box people think?
Time to play cliffhanger. What do you think the plus side is for Wolves?
350.
1457.
Wow, I would throw something on that. Just because that's an absurd number for a team that's in pretty good form. Yes, they're playing Manchester City, but wow, that's a lot. I'm guessing it's because of the action not being at all on Wolves, and they're trying to get some.
Yeah, plus 553 on your draw, and Manchester City a minus 435 in the composite.
That's you're trying to attract action. Nobody's wanting to bet against Manchester City right now, which I understand. But sure, I'll take a stinky juice box and throw it on there because, I mean, Manchester City will drop a game here at some point. Question from Ragamuffin, and it's a pretty interesting conversation that Adama Traore has started to do with rubbing himself in baby oil on his arms before games. And it's intentional because he said people would grab him. Well, they just slip right off with all that baby oil on him now, so they can't grab him as he runs by him. Okay. I guess if it gives you an advantage, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of funny, but if it's effective, sure, go for it. If that is the difference here, yeah, absolutely. If he runs by somebody, they try to grab him, they slide right off. Adama Traore creates the game-tying or game-winning goal for Wolves. It was absolutely worth it.
And I have seen him apply the oil to his arms, and I mean, it is not something where he's just like taking like a little spritz for 2 or 3 fingers and sitting there and just kind of doing this. I mean, it is literally like taking half of the container and going all over his arms and just applying. And I mean, it was. They had a close-up of it last time Wolves was playing as he was applying it. And it's like, oh, my God, he's taken the entire bottle and has just put it all over his arms. I mean, he's not messing around with the idea.
Please have a naughty option somewhere in the chain.
That was borderline offensive, John. He has people who oil him up. Alex Basine is 100% correct. He has oiling people who take care of this. What are you waving about?
Not while I'm trying to take a drink.
He does.
He has people oiling him up. I'm like,
yes,
wait a minute.
He does. What? Why are you being gross?
Sorry. My 5-year-old brain was going at it again.
Please have a naughty option.
I had some soda
somewhere in the
mouth.
chain.
Yeah.
That's John. I mean, you're the one who was making really absurd noises when you were trying to pantomime what was happening with this. So.
Well, it's not just the Twitch audience. I have to, do the audio too.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question, J-Dub. Does he reapply at halftime? I guess he would.
I would think so, yeah.
I guess he would. Gustavo references something that we did not get to talk about with Estudiantes in our Gambetta watch-along over the weekend. They are known as Las Pinchas, and one of the reasons why Gustavo references here, some Argentine players used to have pins to ward off rivals. They would they'd pinch you. They'd stick you with a pin. And that was a claim in the Intercontinental Cup games that Estudiantes had with Manchester United and Racing had with Celtic in the late 60s. Is they would use some really dirty tactics, and one of those was a pin. So you try to grab an Argentine player back at that time, they'd have a pin, jab you.
Is it like sharp side out wrapped in the tape on your wrist and you're sitting there? Where do they hide it?
I think this is back when you had shorts with pockets and you'd have it in your pocket and reach out and jab somebody. So all kinds of madness. I'm much more okay with the oily arms than jabbing people with pins.
Yeah.
Like little needles, Joe. That's what they did, or that's what they were alleged to have done. I don't think they've necessarily denied it, people who were involved in the teams at that time. But they haven't said, oh, yeah, we did that. It's like the whole situation in the 1990 World Cup with the alleged drugged bottle of water that was given to Branco from Brazil. He has said, and this is the 1990 World Cup in Italy, when Argentina and Brazil played in the round of 16, he has said that, this is Branco, there was a player injured, the trainers come out. Of course, a lot of times people get different bottles to drink water, and the Brazilian players are coming over and grabbing water. Well, they had a specific bottle that was drugged, and to the point that allegedly, the trainers were telling Argentine players, no, not that one, not that one. Branco got it. And if you look at his highlights in that game, you would have a question about, is he okay? He had some really bad plays. it's all been alleged, and there's been a lot of wink, wink, nudge, nudge about it. It's never really been proven either way, but yeah, these things would go on. Oily arms versus that stuff? Yeah, you can get all the baby oil you want and have people oil you up. Have fun with it. Do it. Go for it, Adama.
It's like
it's not against the rules.
No, but I mean, it's like in the 80s when you had defensive backs and wide receivers using stickum in pro football, and you'd have receivers take their athletic tape and wind it sticky side out to help with catching a football.
That was against the rules, or at least it became against the rules.
It became against the rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you had that kind of an advantage, that's what defensive backs, what Lester Hayes would do. That's what Fred Bull.
Yeah.
I keep referencing Raiders that are doing these kinds of things.
But like stickum and oiling your arm so people can't grab you are like two completely different things.
Well, I know that stickum is an internal thing trying to help you, where oiling yourself is an external thing trying to help you. But
one is like basically cheating, even when it wasn't officially cheating, and the other one is just so people can't grab you.
Right.
It's a little different. We'll see how Adama Traore's oily arms do today. That 1,400, yeah, sure, I'll take a stinky juice box and throw it on it. Newcastle, bad news. Sorry, Alex. Miguel Almiron, Alan Saint-Maximin out until April. Injuries in the 1-1 draw against Wolves on the weekend. Knee injury for Miguel, groin injury for Alan. They don't have Callum Wilson either. They're 3 points clear of Fulham for the final relegation spot. Is not looking good. Newcastle does have some competition for that spot in the table these days, and we'll see where that goes. But, yeah, it's not looking good. Fulham might save themselves, and I don't know who goes down just yet. It came out last night or early this morning. We talked about it yesterday. Luke Shaw and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the comments they made where I said they should have been fined for their comments, bringing the integrity of the referees into dispute. They will not face action from the FA for what they had to say. Luke Shaw claimed in the interview with Sky Sports that the referee, Stuart Atwell, told Harry Maguire that giving them a penalty on the controversial situation would cause a lot of talk after. He said this in an interview. United later clarified that Luke Shaw misheard Maguire's conversation with the official. That's some nice trying to walk it back for somebody else. I guess it worked. Solskjaer was completely wrong in my estimation of the way he handled it. He didn't explicitly repeat what Shaw said. He said he knew what was said. He didn't try to walk it back. He said it should have been a penalty. Neither one will face disciplinary action. The FA said it is not in breach of the rules and regulations. I say that if it is not in breach of the rules and regulations, it should be.
Yeah.
Because that is not correct. You should not be able to do that sort of thing. At the bottom of the Premier League, Chris Wilder is confused. I don't know why exactly. They are at the bottom. They are 15 points adrift to safety. And he doesn't know why the club is not talking to him about staying on next year. I think it's probably because of where they sit in the table. Just a guess. Just a wild guess. They're really bad. And he was asked if he'll be at the club next season. Wilder said, I don't know. We always plan short, medium, and long term, but that plan is determined by other people than me. I've not had those conversations. I think that they should be happening, but they're not happening. He was asked if he wanted to stay. He said, yes, definitely, if we stick to the plan. The plan, as always, was to leave a legacy, change things off the pitch which need changing, then stick with the players we've invested in and add a couple to try to bounce back. Simple as that. Should he be the manager next season?
Could Sheffield United afford anyone else? That'd be my first question. Going down to the championship.
Not coming into it yet. Should he, in a perfect world, be the manager next season?
No, considering that you've got 11 points, you've scored 15 goals, you've won 3 out of 26, my answer would be no.
That's where I stand too. That's what should happen. Because, I mean, it's not just been bad and have some bad luck. It's horrendous, and there's been nothing to make it better. He has had no answers. It normally means you got to go. Now, what you bring up is a valid consideration here. I don't know what his contract terms are. I don't know if they would have to pay him if they fire him. I don't know who they would have to replace him because they would be probably considered a favorite to go back. Do you just stay the course, stick with the plan like he talks about, and see what happens? You might have to, but you shouldn't. It should be time to go.
It looks like a year ago he signed a new 4.5-year deal through the summer of 2024 with an option for an additional year.
Okay. I wonder if there's outs in there, and especially relegation outs. A lot of times there are.
And it looks like his base salary is £650,000 a year with bonuses, which obviously probably won't get caught up. So his contract extension is worth £3.25 million, including bonus and incentive league payouts between now and 2023-24.
If that's guaranteed, then yeah, you're going to have to stick with him. You just don't have a choice. You don't have the money to deal with that. You just got to ride with it. Some other things going on in Europe at the moment. Jorge Sampaoli is on the ground in France. Marseille is an interesting situation. Fans have not been happy at all. You've got an owner who people are very confused about what they are trying to accomplish. The table right now in France is really weird because it's not PSG dominating. They're in second. They're 2 points behind Lille. Lyon is 3 points off the lead. Monaco's 4 points off the lead. It's the first time we've seen anything like this in a while. One of them is going to miss out on the Champions League next year because only 3 go. Marseille is in seventh. Very bleh. 10 wins, 7 losses, 9 draws. Sampaoli's not going to fix it immediately. He'll have an opportunity to fix it over time. We'll see if he gets it. But Marseille's just a mess. Does McCourt fix it? Does Sampaoli fix it? Does he get time to? Or is it just more chaos after more chaos?
And there was a discussion yesterday about Frank McCourt looking to sell, the possibility of declaring bankruptcy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with Marseille off the field, in addition to what's going on with Ligue 1. And it's obviously something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. I think it was former president Jean-Michel Aulas was looking for a reduction in teams in Ligue 1 before he was dismissed. So I mean, there's a lot of news coming out of Marseille, and not all of it's good.
Well, the stuff about reducing the teams in the league is all hypothetical stuff at this point, and that's come up through UEFA conversations and other things across other leagues too. So that's a whole separate issue. Like, Marseille's not going anywhere. Let's not get it mixed up. France as a whole has a lot of issues because of the hit from their broadcast revenues. You're going to have some changes in France. It could create even more separation long-term for PSG and the rest of the pack. This year, not so much. And PSG is going to be missing Neymar against Barcelona in the second leg. He has been ruled out at this point. We'll see if Sampaoli can get them back into that first group. I don't know, to be honest, because they don't have as much talent as some of the teams ahead of them. And while I think Sampaoli has a system that can be really interesting and could be good, I don't know if it's good enough to bridge that talent gap. I just don't think they can compete with PSG. Could they get into Champions League? Potentially. But teams are going to have to fall back. It's going to take him some time. It's not going to happen next year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We shall see. In Argentina, you've got a couple of Copa Argentina games tonight. Talleres is playing Atlético de Rafaela, second division team. That's at 6:10. You can watch that on TIC and on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You've also got Defensa y Justicia and Fernando Mesa on loan from Atlanta United. They are playing Estudiantes Caseros. another second division team. There's about 20 Estudiantes teams in Argentina, and it can be a little confusing. This is a second division team based out of Buenos Aires. That's at 8:15, same place as TIC and Defensa y Justicia. Fanatis and TIC. My bad, I'm losing my mind. It's early. The other story here is with Boca Juniors. Carlos Tevez has returned to training. He's missed a couple of games after the death of his father. There was even talk yesterday that he would be retiring. Not going to happen. He showed up for training today. Should be getting his way back into the mix. Boca tomorrow. You want an underdog in the Copa Argentina to follow tomorrow. Claypole. Yes, Claypole. 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 They are the defending champions of the Primera D, the 5th division. They get to play Boca in the Copa Argentina tomorrow night. I don't know if Tevez plays in that. I don't know what that lineup looks like. But Claypole, who's moving up to the 4th division, they're playing Boca tomorrow night. And in another story that I thought was interesting, Pulga Rodriguez, we've talked about a bunch, from Colón, who is the Cuauhtémoc Blanco of Argentina, maybe. Not very fast, not very athletic at this point, aging, but wily and scores some ridiculous golazos, and he's one of the best players in the league these days. He talked about his hopes of getting a call from Juan Ramon Riquelme to join Boca Juniors. He's never played for any of the Grandes. He's never played for any of the big clubs. Pulga going to Boca would be the greatest thing ever. I would love to see that for him in his career. He's probably got a couple years left. And the form he's in, he would absolutely help Boca right now because they are bland and boring and just blah. Primera D for Claypole, that's amateur. It's 5th division. I'm sure some people might get a little bit of cash to play games, but it is essentially amateur. Gustavo tells us. So this is an amateur versus pro game with Claypole and Boca. It's going to be fun to watch. It's probably going to get ugly. You also Thursday night have the Supercopa, the defending champion of the last full league format, Racing, which ended in March of last year. Again, thank you, COVID. They play the 2019 Copa Argentina champions, River, in the Supercopa, the 2020 Supercopa that's pushed back. Again, it's all out of whack. That is Thursday night. There's some pressure on that because it's a meaningful trophy, and River has not really been looking convincing. They are the favorite coming into this by far. They should win. If they don't, pressure's going to ramp up on River. I've not been impressed with them in the couple games I've seen in the current tournament. It's just not happening for them right now. Now, they've added a bunch of players, and they're kind of bringing them in on the fly. Maybe it gets better over time, but River has not been good. Boca has not been good. Mataflo says they out-talent the competition. They do, and usually that's enough. Neither one's looked like it so far in this tournament. It might not be enough in a short tournament like this. We'll see. Because River's going to need time to gel, and Boca's just lost Salvio. They've lost Izquierdos for a little bit of time. Salvio for at least 6 months. I mean, it's not a good situation for either one of them. It feels like a tournament that we could see a surprise in. So it's going to be fun. And these short tournaments invite chaos. The Copa de la Liga that's going on right now just invites chaos with a 13-game season and in a knockout tournament, playoffs. Copa Argentina is fun because of these random games. What I like that they do with the Copa Argentina, the equivalent of the Open Cup, the equivalent of the FA Cup, that I don't think would be able to work here because of the size of the country, but it's an interesting idea. They play the games at neutral sites. So for a Boca and a River, it's really interesting when they get to go play out in the interior. And you see like huge crowds in random places to see these games. So like, I'm not even sure where Boca and Claypole are playing, but if they did it, 3 hours outside of Buenos Aires, out in a place that Boca usually doesn't go play, it has to be a decent-sized stadium, of course. All these kind of things are requirements. It's pretty cool. And, in England you could do that because the country's small enough. Here it'd be tough. But I'd love to see the idea has always been, and I disagree with it. I think Taylor Twellman has pushed for this, and others have pushed for this, that MLS teams should go on the road to play the smaller teams, the lower division teams. I don't like that. I want a tournament.
Yeah.
I don't want to put a team at a disadvantage in the tournament. But if you wanted to do this, where you said, okay, MLS teams, you can't play in your market, but you can play nearby. So if you're some, it would be tougher to do. But if you're Atlanta, for example, you could play in Birmingham, or you could play in Greenville, or you could play in Chattanooga, or you could play in Macon. That would be interesting.
Pick a midpoint between the two teams?
No, not necessarily a midpoint, but the home team, if it's the MLS team, has to play outside of their city. So, look, it's going to be different for different teams, right? But for Atlanta, for Nashville, you could play in Knoxville. You could play in Chattanooga. You could play in Memphis. You play somewhere nearby where you're trying to grow your regional brand. So it's a home game, but it's not quite a home game. It would be an interesting twist to it. It's something to look at, because some of these games... Now, look, if you get Patronato and Estudiantes Caseros in Argentina, and you play that in Rosario, okay, it might not draw very well. But there's some matchups that could be really interesting. So take that idea, but make it not a truly random location to play the game, but a targeted location to play it. That would be interesting. I'd love to see Atlanta play an Open Cup game in Macon, for example.
Yeah.
Stuff like that would be cool. So maybe it's an idea to kind of fit both of the ideas about how to grow the Open Cup and make it bigger and make it more interesting. We'll see.
Is Twellman's rationale for having the MLS team go on the road to equalize an advantage or give the economic boost to the lower division side? I mean, what's the rationale that he's been talking about? Is that it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he said it. I think it's just to make the tournament more interesting. I don't think it's about the economic boost. I'm assuming it's to equalize it and give the lower division team a bigger opportunity. I understand the idea behind it. I think Spain does that as well. I would like to see this, where do the draw, but just say, no, you can't play in your stadium, you can't play in your market, you have to play a minimum of 50 miles from your stadium or your training ground. I don't know. Figure it out. Or they have to have places that they declare. Like if it's Atlanta, you play within a 2-hour radius. Okay, cool. It's just, I don't know. It'd be an interesting way to do it and maybe grow the game in some spots that don't normally get it. Because I've seen that with the Copa Argentina, with River and Boca playing in places and the excitement it generates. It's pretty cool. Maybe you could find a way to do that here. I don't know. It's a work in progress. Spitballing this morning. It happens sometimes on a Tuesday. Question on the Twitch pitch, or a conversation maybe is the best way to put it. Back and forth about Argentine soccer. Is it mediocre? Gustavo says it is. He says it's interesting to watch, to get players. Others disagree. I understand what you're saying. Like it can be mediocre in comparison to La Liga or the Premier League or whatever, but it can still be compelling. Those can be separate things. Like I'm a soccer viewer, I'm a soccer fan who is not hung up on this is the best league and that's the only one I'm going to watch. I want a compelling league, and Argentina is compelling to me because of some of the backstories. MLS is compelling to me because of the parity. Liga MX, for example, and that's been one of the topics, is Liga MX a better league than Argentina? It's not as compelling to me. I don't watch it. I watch the Argentine league more. I'll watch Ecuador and I'll watch Uruguay because those right now are very compelling to me as I'm learning about them. Maybe that changes over time. I don't enjoy watching West Brom and Crystal Palace. I won't watch it. I don't care. I'd rather watch Boca Juniors and Claypole. It's different for different people, but the quality you can rate up and down, and it's a little bit easier to rate quality where it's a little more obvious. Like, yes, England and Spain and France and Germany are better than Argentina. Now, Argentina versus Mexico, Argentina versus MLS, different conversation. Argentina versus Brazil, different conversation. A little bit harder to rate. But the compelling scale is very hard to rate because everybody has different things that it makes it compelling. I personally watch MLS the most. I probably watch Argentina the second most. I'm not talking competitions. I'm talking the leagues. I'm not talking like Champions League or Sudamericana or Libertadores or that stuff.
Yeah.
I watch the ones that are compelling to me. They might not be compelling to you. They might not be compelling to somebody else. It can still be a compelling competition. And I think that's where Argentina is right now and probably will be for a long time because players leave the country to make more money. Clubs have to sell to make more money. They can't keep the players that once they become good, top guys, they can't keep them. So then it's always recycling. That's compelling to me, but it does hurt the quality. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's MLS, then it's Premier League. And because of that, that was why, in looking at those, that's when I started watching Liga MX more. And so Liga MX for me would be number 3. And then the Central American leagues for me are 4 because of what CONCACAF Champions League has introduced into my viewing habits to become acquainted with the Saprises and the Alajuelenses and Olympia and Motagua and those kinds of things. And so for me, it's sprouted from the MLS viewing with Atlanta United and then wanting to become educated about, okay, what's going on with the Campeones Cup, who would they be playing? So you'll watch Liga MX. Then from there, Champions League, okay, who could they be playing? And so it's just following along the pathway for me. But yeah, Premier League is second behind MLS, but also with my viewing habits, it's more of an education to what could be going on with Atlanta United.
Yeah, a couple thoughts real quick. We're not going to be able to do a 3-hour show. I've got a call here in a few minutes, so we're going to start to wind down. If you guys have questions about anything we've talked about today, go ahead and fire them off on Twitter or on the Twitch pitch, and we'll start to get to them. Modiflow says, Liga MX is very compelling to me, but Latin American soccer fascinates me in general. It's like watching a bunch of artists running around trying to upstage each other. I think that last part is one reason I'm not as excited about Liga MX, because I feel like you don't see as much of that. I think it's the pace. It's just a little bit slower, and I understand why. But I like some of the leagues in South America more because of the pace is faster. I mean, to me, an Argentine game just looks and feels different, so I enjoy it more. Even games from Ecuador, games from Uruguay at times, although they can get very cynical and physical and weird. I like the Argentine league far more than Mexico. But I agree in general what you're saying, Modiflow. Like, it depends on your taste and what you like in the game. You know, you might like the countering, the pressure that you see in Germany. You might like the tactical side of it that you'll see in Italy. You might like the energy in England. But also, as Alex Bassin says, it's hard to go away from what you're used to. You know, I mean, Alex has watched the Premier League for over 20 years. You get hooked into history, stories, clubs, styles, backstories, all that. Absolutely. And that's MLS for me. Like, I will choose an MLS game over anything else, period, every single time. And it will be any MLS game.
Yep.
It could be the most benign MLS game you could imagine. Right now, that would probably be, or at least last season, it would have been like Cincinnati and Vancouver. And I would watch that over any other league in the world.
Yep.
Because of the storylines and because of what the league means to me. So 100%. I totally get it. I do like that it's easy to find new leagues now. It wasn't before. New teams, new stories. You know, it's so much easier. I mean, on a weeknight now, you can pick a game from Argentina, you can pick a game from Uruguay, you can pick a game from Mexico. I mean, you can have Colombia easily without spending a crazy amount of money, without having a huge satellite dish. Like, you can have 3, 4, 5 options all over this hemisphere to watch any night of the week, it seems like.
Yep.
That's really cool. Coco says, I've grown up watching Bundesliga with the pace and intensity. MLS has embraced some of that. Argentina follows that intensity for me. That's why England's just not as interesting to Coco. Abby talking about Argentina, especially since you want to see where those new players Atlanta United's getting and where they're coming from game-wise.
Yep.
That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Pacine watches every MLS game that he can, trying to give eyeballs to the movement. That's how it grows. Tommy enjoys the leagues in South America because of the stories. Same here. Yeah, the stories and getting to learn them are a big thing for me. Modiflow says, by the way, Independiente del Valle is going to suck the first half of the year. And they have. New coach, lots of players left the team, lots of work to do. They got to rebuild. It's been a rough go for them early on in the new season. Gustavo says, I don't want to be disrespectful with any league, but I'm sure that the Argentine league is worse than in other decades. Yeah, I think because you can't hold on to players anymore. Still compelling, though. And it goes back to something I've said a bunch of times, and I wish would be the mentality here in the U.S. No, MLS is not the best league in the world. No, Argentina is not either. And Argentina could be, at one of its lowest moments in terms of quality. But they don't talk about it in that way domestically. And not to, blow smoke, but they're talking about the stories of the league and what it is. They're going to debate River, and they're going to debate Boca, and they're going to debate Bonfield as can they be a contender, and they're going to talk about Pulga, and they're going to talk about the stories and not, overly focus on, well, it's not England. And I feel like here we do that to the detriment of growing the league. And it's frustrating. You can identify what it is and where it stands, but you can still talk about the storylines of that league. It can still be compelling if it's not the best league in the world. Like people who love mid-major college basketball or people who love, smaller college football. It's compelling to you and it's big to you. And we should talk about it in that way. I don't know. Just me. Tommy says, the thing I like the most is I can actually watch weeknight games after work. Yeah. And now they're just common. Again, without crazy satellite packages, you can watch all kinds of games every night. It's amazing. Byrne says, everybody has different tastes in soccer. It's like food or wine. Personally, I don't enjoy Liga MX or most MLS teams because I don't or can't discern tactical identities of teams, with some exceptions. Maybe that's my problem. Argentina, Brazil has tactical identities. And that's it. Some people are looking for that in the game. Others aren't. Others are looking for the energy. It is. It's we can argue about food or music all day, and there's not a right answer. You like this kind of food? I don't. Yeah, you can tell me how it tastes, and I can tell you how it tastes to me. We still feel it different, and that's the game. That's what's great about it, because there's so many different leagues around the world and all these different things. It's a blast. That's the thing about this game. It's just wonderful. So there's always something in it. If you don't like the game that's on, there's going to be another one coming on very soon that you will enjoy and you can watch and you will get into and all of that. Any questions on Twitter before we wrap?
Yeah, a couple of things to mop up there.
What we got?
Just a couple of comments. Tofka back to 2030 and the UK. He says, "Yeah, I love Ireland and Scotland. It's entirely selfish that he wants it there."
Okay, we probably didn't need that, but okay.
Just
Thank you, Tofka.
And then Antinho is loves it when Jarrett will drop in. It's coming home, and it doesn't get the respect it deserves.
No, it shouldn't. It's coming home. It should go to Uruguay.
And then last question to mop up on Twitter comes from Ezra Packham again. Do you think Barco is still able to make a leap to Europe if he gets sold after this season? Yep. Do you think Pedro de la Vega from Lanús is a potential winger that can be brought in? I hope that we can get him because I think he could be a top winger in MLS.
Yep, I like both. I think Barco can make the jump. I think Barco can have a big year this year, and we'll have to see where the finances are and where the market goes. But, yeah, I think he can make that jump for sure. And Pedro de la Vega would be a player that you would absolutely target. De la Vega is on the way up. Alan Velasco is ready now, and he'd be far more expensive. But those are the two guys that you would be looking at, in my opinion, out of Argentina anyway. There's going to be others around the world. But if you could get Velasco, you do it in a heartbeat. You can give De La Vega another year and then grab him. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but you want to see a little bit more from him. Now there's some more expectation on him. Okay, can he rise to that challenge? Velasco's ready. Alan Velasco is absolutely ready to go. Would love to see him make the jump to MLS. I don't know if it'll happen. I think he will have an opportunity in Europe, but I hope it's not the Moises Caicedo opportunity where it's let's bring him along slowly and let's do this and that. Nah, he's ready. Velasco's ready. I hope he goes to a place where they're going to treat him with that opportunity to go play straight away. And if that's MLS for a year or two. Would love to see it. Gustavo asked why Atlanta fans like Pedro de la Vega. Is he handsome? He has nice hair. It's true. He's kind of got a surfer vibe thing going, it seems like. I like his game. I've liked his game for a while, and I think it's because of the Lanús connection. Miggy was there. Marcelino Moreno in some ways replaced Miguel Almiron. De La Vega in some ways is replacing Moreno. It's not quite as clear. He's more of a winger than a central guy. But De La Vega is like that next figure. He's now wearing the 10. Seems like the number 10s at Lanús end up in Atlanta. So it's a player you're going to keep an eye on. I think he's good. But I don't Coco, I thoroughly disagree. De La Vega is not further along than Barco right now. He's not even close. Doesn't have the same level of experience at all. Higher ceiling? I'm not sure of that just yet, honestly. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. If I could get De La Vega or Velasco, 100% right now. De La Vega in another year, maybe we'll have a different conversation. De La Vega might be a little bit more of an old school playmaker, kind of like Barco in that regard, where it's, okay, that doesn't really exist now. They're going to play out on the wing. Can they adjust? Velasco is just a straight up winger and outstanding. I would go get, if you sold Barco in the next year and you could get Alan Velasco, I would go get Alan Velasco. But I would be keeping an eye on De La Vega for sure. I don't like him, Gustavo, when I'm talking about a number 10 specifically. Like, I think now you're not going to see 10s play in the position as 10s very often. You won't see it for Gabriel Heinze. He doesn't play that way typically. So I think you'll see 10s play wide. They'll have the characteristics of a 10, but not play in the 10 position. I think that part's changing at this point. Coco, I'd go Velasco. Velasco's the one that I would cut the check immediately. I would wait on De La Vega a little bit. And you're going to wait because you've got Barco. So when the time comes, we'll see where they stand. I think Velasco might be in Europe by that point anyway. So we will see. There's going to be others too. I mean, that's the thing, is it's not just these two guys. There's young talent coming through in Argentina all the time, and you're going to see more of it come into this league. And some of it's going to be a little bit older, like Tomas Pochettino to Austin. I still think that's going to be one of the best signings of the year. Gustavo's begging us not to take Alan Velasco. He's coming, Gustavo. Would you rather have him come to Atlanta or go to Spain? Where do you want him to go? Come on. Baloges? Yeah, absolutely Modiflo. There's so many. Galopo. Like, there's a bunch of guys in Argentina at that next level club down from Boca and River that, yeah, ton of guys. Julian Alvarez at River. Tommy, I'm wondering what the deal is with him. I don't know. I'm worried about him stagnating. So many different ones. He ain't staying at Independiente. Gustavo, come on, man. You guys better sell while you can because you got to pay these bills. You'd rather have him in Atlanta. You know you would. You want him to end up in a good place. He'll be taken care of here.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It's always fun to speculate on this stuff. But, yeah, I think Barco will get his chance in Europe in the next year. And you'll be looking to shop. And, yeah, I think Velasco and De La Vega are two guys that would be high on that list. Thomas Joanne asked about Thiago Almada. He has navigated a very bad situation that is still a little unclear about a party and about allegations. And he was questioned, and he's back in the team now. I don't know if that's been totally resolved. You would want to get those answers. You wouldn't play him out wide, so the replacement for Barco wouldn't be exact. He would be coming in centrally, I would expect. But he's a player to watch. But, yeah, you got to get some answers about the situation that happened late last season, a party, and I know there were allegations from women who were at the party. I don't know where it stands because he was separated from the team. He wasn't playing. He was questioned, but then he was brought back into the team, and I did not hear about a resolution to the case, so I don't know. But you're not touching him until that's resolved. You're not even thinking about it until that's resolved. Anyway, to end it on a downer, we are done for the day. We will be back tomorrow morning with Wall Pass Wednesday. We will continue to dig deeper into MLS and kind of grab different teams to talk about as we get ready for the season underway. Teams are training. Lots of stuff is happening. It's exciting. We're getting closer and closer. We got preseason games coming all over the place here soon, and we'll be talking about all of it, along with everything else going on. You got games this week, a lot of interesting games this week that we'll be getting into. What was our game that we predicted today? It was Juventus and Spezia.
Juve and Spezia.
Everybody picked Juventus except for me. I picked a draw.
No, Jarrett picked a draw.
Jarrett picked a draw. Juve's missing a bunch of players. It's 2:45 on ESPN+. John and Nick have Juve. Jarrett and I have a draw. We will see where it goes. We'll compare notes tomorrow. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Mucha plata, y'all.
Juan Agudelo signs as a free agent with Minnesota United. Mucha plata, y'all.
Okay.